that game Palworld that has been blowing up on the internet recently and that people have been non-stop talking about and has millions of players actively playing it at one time? I had no interest in it in any way whatsoever. I heard about it before release, and the only thing I really heard about it was that it was apparently Pokemon with guns, and that was kind of it. And that didn't immediately spark any interest into this game at all when I heard that. I was just like, okay, whatever, it's just gonna be like another game that's trying to be like Pokemon, or it's trying to be like, it's trying to have stuff that's kind of loosely related towards Pokemon, and it's gonna do its own thing, it's gonna be whatever, yada yada yada. I don't care, right? I didn't really care about it, but then all of a sudden it just came out of nowhere and blew the fuck up. And it really surprised me. I didn't actually anticipate the game being as successful as it was. And, you know, whatever, good for the devs. They, did a good job marketing the game, I guess, or people just flocked to it at the right time, and it's really successful. I get them props for that at the very least, but I gotta be honest, after looking into it with some gameplay and some people playing it and looking into what you actually do within the game, I found it to be completely generic and boring, and I have even less interest into it than I had previously before. It's just like, the main thing that you're getting into it for is the fact that it's, like I said, Pokemon with guns. You're trying to, catch little like creatures that exist within this world whilst you're shooting them in the face with a shotgun. That's the main thing you want to do. That's the main thing that you're seeking out for. Meanwhile, the main gameplay loop is like a survival game, and it's like, if I wanted to play a survival game, I would just play like Ark or Minecraft or Rust or literally any other survival game. If I wanted to play Pokemon, I would just play the myriad of different generations of Pokemon. And if I wanted to play a game that's a shooter, I would play any other fucking shooter game. So it's just, the more that I looked at it, the more I was just like, what the fuck am I even looking at? This just doesn't look impressive. It doesn't look fun. It looks painfully generic, and I have no interest in trying it out, no interest in playing it. Good job on the devs. They made a really successful game that pretty much rips off a lot of what Nintendo has been doing for a long time with their designs for their pals. Which, speaking of which, now that I mentioned that, the main thing that's been talked about with this game is the fact of whether or not the game actually uses AI to copy a lot of what Nintendo has been using for their Pokemon designs. And, people obviously showed the comparisons between a PAL from Palworld and a Pokemon from Pokemon, and the fact that they look so hilariously similar to one another, despite the fact that they're supposed to be two entirely different games. And I guess you can make an argument that potentially they did use AI to like make their AI pals, and they did like use assets from Pokemon, from the world of Pokemon in the games and all that stuff to make their like character designs and all that stuff. It's potentially likely that, the fact that they are so pro and positive in use of actually using AI for making their games. Like, I think the CEO actually actually promotes the use of AI. But honestly, like, the main takeaway that I take from this isn't the fact that they may or may not use AI, or the fact that this is basically just another Pokemon clone that just so happens to use guns. The main takeaway that I have from this is that right now it's incredibly successful, and good on the devs. Like I said, they did a fantastic job making a game that got a lot of people's attention. But the thing that I take away from all this experience is that after a few more weeks, maybe like a couple of months or so, people are gonna stop talking about this game, and then they're gonna pretend like it never even existed and it wasn't even that good anyways. Because that tends to happen with Pokemon clones. A Pokemon clone will come out, people say like, oh, this is gonna dethrone Pokemon, this is gonna make the Pokemon games even better, and blah 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 blah, and all that stuff. And it's like, as much as I would like to think that this could get the attention of Game Freak to want to make their games better, which, speaking of which, I should add actually that this did get the attention of the Pokemon company, but I think all that's really gonna happen is that there may or may not be a lawsuit for their intellectual property being used with AI generation of their pals taking inspiration from Pokemon and the Pokemon world. But copyright doesn't really exist in Japan, and apparently both companies for each respective game both live and exist over in Japan. So whether or not there's actually going to be a lawsuit in regards to the copyright law is going to be very confusing. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if that actually ends up happening or not. But just like, people are going to end up stop talking about this game after a while. I feel like that after like the hype has died down and no one really cares about the whole like aesthetic of, oh, we're able to use guns and beat the shit out of these like little creatures that remind us of Pokemon from our childhood. And it's like, once that like dies out and people start losing interest, it's like, what's really gonna end up happening with this game? And pretty much what ended up happening with every single other Pokemon clone, like they get really popular at first, people are talking about it, people are playing it, and then they stop playing it, and then Pokemon continues to make billions and billions of more dollars off of just their merchandise, which is exactly what's going to end up happening. This game's going to die out, people are going to stop playing it, they're going to start playing it less, and Pokemon is still going to continue to reign supreme, and they're just going to continue to make more and more money just off of their games, for the DLC, their animation department with the Pokemon anime, through their dozens and dozens of merchandise. It's just, I don't really see this game going anywhere other than it being really popular right now, and that's kind of it. Again, congratulations, they did a really good job of creating a game that got a lot of really mainstream attention from a lot of people, but in regards to actually keeping that player retention, I just don't think that's going to end up happening, because Pokemon's been around for over 20 years, and I don't think there's really anything that they can do in order to be able to dethrone it. And what are they going to do to actually combat the popularity of Palworld? I don't think they really necessarily do anything. And that's kind of like the whole reason why I don't really understand why people are trying to say like, oh, this could potentially inspire Pokemon and Game Freak and Nintendo to make their Pokemon games even better, when it's like, once this game dies out and people stop talking about it, there's no reason for them to take any inspiration from this game anyways, because they can just continue to keep getting away with stuff that they've already been getting away with for a while now. And that's pretty much how this is going to end up turning out. At least that's what I think so. And obviously I think the best case scenario is that Palworld is, you know, a decent enough of a success and makes a name for itself in the market that it's in, where it's directly a competition for Pokemon, and it can actually inspire the Pokemon company to do things that they actually haven't done before, or do things that the fans have always been asking for, so that way they can bring back that player retention for those games and continue to keep more merchandise and more money off of their merchandise and their games and all that stuff. I don't know. I just wasn't really sure if I want to talk about the situation, to be completely honest, because it just was something that didn't really pique my interest, like I said, because it just was a game that I had zero interest in. Looking into the gameplay itself, I had even less interest into it. But, you know, hopefully something turns out, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen from here on forward. I just really want to talk about the whole thing really quickly. Whether in regards to they're actually using AI to copy off of like their Pokemon designs for their pals in Palworld is, you know, that's a whole nother discussion. If you want someone to talk about that, or if you want to like have the discussion with someone, go check out Mudahar's videos from Someone Near Gamers, because he's been talking about the whole controversy. I think in regards to like one of the controversies that happened around Palworld was Asmongold was talking about like the AI art, and then he talked about how the artist's opinions doesn't matter in regards to like something revolving around AI art. I don't remember the whole thing that he said and what the context was about, but he said that, and it was in context with talking about Palworld. And I was like, yeah, that's really dumb. You really shouldn't have said that. That's a really fucking terrible take, because if it wasn't for artists around the world, a lot of the things that we currently have wouldn't even exist in the first place. So, yeah, whatever. Palworld is existing right now. I think it's going to be popular for a couple more weeks, maybe like a month or so. We'll see. But do I think it's actually going to have that staying power to continue to keep being popular? I don't think so. And yeah, that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about with today's video. Completely different than what I've been making recently from the last like few videos I've been making, and I'm really glad about that, because that whole situation was really serious towards the end of things. And I mean, they did really well, and I'm very happy about that. But talking about the whole situation really like brought my mood down, and I'm glad to be talking about something else. And honestly, I just think this whole situation is kind of like dumb to begin with, because it's just, who fucking cares, right? Pokemon is still going to be like the top selling video game of all time anyways, so who really gives a shit? So yeah, it's kind of a dumb situation. I want to talk about it really quickly. Let me know what your thoughts are about the whole situation are in the comments. I would really be interested to read about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, please be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more, please be sure to subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.